President Trump has said he wants to close the federal Department of Education.
Let the states run their own education.
And he says the agency is filled with
radical zealots and Marxists.
But at the same time, he signed sweeping executive orders that would use the federal department to wield tremendous power over local schools, that try to prevent schools from recognizing or affirming transgender identities, that try to force and push schools to adopt what he calls a patriotic view of American history, that prevent schools from talking about things like critical race theory. And he has attempted to cut off federal funding for schools that defy these goals. So what exactly is the Department of Education? And importantly, what is it not? The Department of Education is not the agency or the part of government that controls what schools teach kids or how they teach it. Local school districts and states have control over those huge questions. The Department of Education is a relatively small federal agency, and more than 70% of its budget goes toward federal student aid, so grants or loans that help folks pay for college. In terms of K-12 education, there are funding streams to support low-income kids, disabled children. There's funding streams for research into best practices in education. The federal government only controls about 10% of the funding for local K-12 schools. Congress controls that 10%. So absent a ruling from the Supreme Court that would give the president powers that he doesn't currently have, these threats are not that meaningful to local schools. It is clear, however, that the Trump administration will drastically try to reduce the size of the federal Department of Education. Attempts to decrease the amount of money the Department of Education receives are going to disproportionately impact those students who the department's programs serve: low-income children, children with disabilities, and college students who cannot afford the full price of their tuition. They have already cut nearly $1 billion that's used to support research and education. Especially notable because 2 weeks ago, the latest federal test score data showed that reading achievement among children in this nation is at a historic low. Some of the programs that were cut involved research into the very questions that could explain why reading achievement is so low and what can be done about it. Given what the federal Department of Education does and doesn't do, what it controls and doesn't control, these attempts to slash its budget and the size of its staff may have less impact on what students learn than on their ability to effectively learn it.